What is sociology? Sociology is about the present societies. It is about the present societies. It may try to predict future. It may try to have a peep into the past. But its focus remains the present. By present we mean modern societies. Here, what is meant by society? Societies, the word societies here is used in the sense of all aspects. By society we mean all aspects. Some may think societies mean social aspect, but in the context of sociology, social aspect includes political, economic. So, sociology is a study of present in all its aspects. What are these aspects? Family. Family is the basic institution. Class. In India's case, caste. Tribe. Race. Religion. And polity, which includes nation, identity politics, party system, secessionism, terrorism, like this. Economy, population, planning, globalization, informal labor, poverty, education, rural areas, agriculture, urbanization, environment, technology. So, this is what is meant by all the aspects. Political aspects covered, economic aspects covered, environment, science and technology, family, class, caste, tribe, religion, race. Does any discipline cover like this? No. Take for example political science. Covers polity aspects. Economics covers economy aspects. Though they cover present day societies. So economics specializes, political science specializes, but sociology doesn't specialize. It's like this. And also, sociology studies to some extent, timeline also. how societies changed, though not as extensively as history. So, historical dimension is also there. Why social change is taking place, how it takes place, and what may be the future of the society. So, timeline. So, sociology is a study of all aspects of modern societies, unlike other disciplines, which specialize in certain aspects. And when it studies all aspects, what it does is that it doesn't study them separately. If it studies separately, then it becomes like a sub-discipline of specialized studies. So what it does is that when it studies political system may be studied by political science. But when sociology studies political system, sociology links political system with other systems. So, sociology not only studies various aspects, but interlinks. In that sense, it is holistic. In that sense, it attempts a bigger picture. It attempts a bigger picture, non-specialized, interrelated, and bigger picture. Here, one very important question which raises the issue of what precisely is the sociology is this. We said sociology is the study of societies. But then societies differ. Mexican society, Indian society, American society. Take for example history. We don't have history of all. If there is a history of all, then it is world history. Otherwise, it is Mexican history, Indian history, American history. So how can sociology be not Mexican sociology, Indian sociology and American sociology? How can sociology be a discipline which is useful across nations? That is an issue. In proving that issue, we will know the real nature of sociology. Okay. Sociology developed in Europe as part of modernization, as a part of studying man scientifically and his institutions with an intention to change them. Study man and his institutions. Study. But why study? To change. But to change in which direction? Certain values. Study man and his institutions with an intention to change according to certain values. That's how sociology as a discipline began. But then there is no one way of looking at a society. There is no one way of understanding man or his institutions. There cannot be consensus on how to change, consensus on what are the values. When you are discussing some distant past, then people may agree. But when they are discussing something present, which is so important to them, people are less likely to agree. So here, different people proposed different ideas. Marx said something about this. Durkheim, Weber. So let us call them thinkers. These thinkers looked at the world around them and also the past in a particular way, proposed certain kinds of future. You may be more familiar with Marx. He saw society as domination of the rich. Its institutions are exploited, whereas others won't see like that. So, in sociology, these things are called perspectives. There is a society. These are perspectives. Marx perspective, Durkheim perspective, Weber perspective. Perspective is the way to look at the society, the world, its past, and its desirable future. Okay. So this is how it developed. Then, as a part of modernization, this P1, P2, P3 went to different countries. Now take an example of Mexico. Mexican society is not what these people may have talked about. But some people in Mexico attempt to look at their society from P1, P2, P3 point of view. Some say P1 is right, some others say P2 is right, and there would be others who say P3 is right. Then some may realize P1, P2, P3 may be right in the context of Europe, but in the context of Mexico, maybe some modification to P3 is required. So P3 dash or P3A is required, which means P3A emerged as a perspective. Then somebody studying in India. If sociology book writers, or you call them sociologists, think that P3A has some useful thing to add to the discipline outside Mexico, then textbook will add P3 variation P3A. And when this textbook comes to India, you have P1, P2, P3, P3A. But Indian scholars may find that no, this is not exactly P3A, but we are closer to P1A. So it means India contributes P1A. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 go to sociology discipline. So what is sociology? It is about generating, preserving, spreading perspectives which are useful beyond the context in which they are generated. So that is how sociology becomes valid across the societies. Various thinkers across societies contribute to the general literature, like in Wikipedia. But the difference between Wikipedia and sociology is this is generalization, not the specifics. Specifics are given, but only to the extent that they are useful to the generalization. Okay. So this is how sociology is about perspectives. Quite a contrasting case is economics. In economics, there may be some perspectives, but essentially, economics comes out as one discipline, GDP, demand and supply, inflation, banking, international trade. So, there may be some opinion differences in terms of trade, but these are minor compared to the differences in sociology. So, if there is any perspective which is contrasting to the body of economics, he will be shunted out of economics. For example, a person like Veblen, he is too critical of economics, so checked out of economics. Because economics requires some consensus, so highly unorthodox opinions are checked out. Some consensus is built. On the basic framework of consensus, minor disagreements. So in economics also there is a disagreement, but it is of minor nature. If anybody is asking what is GDP is for, he doesn't have much stake in the textbook. Okay. So whereas in sociology, whoever asks questions, however irreverential they are, however fundamental they are, as long as they help a reader to look at his society in a new way, not necessarily he should solve the problem. If it helps in a new way, then it becomes a perspective. And these perspectives spread. So, sociology doesn't monopolize. It begins with diversity, ends with diversity, maximizes diversity. It is a critical reflection on an issue. Traditionally, Marx played a very, very important role, and many other perspectives emerged as criticism to Marxism. Marx said this is an exploitative world, and others looked at it differently. So this is about a debate, dialogue. This dialogue continued across cultures and countries and looking at their own issues in terms of this dialogue and adding new dimensions to the dialogue, making it more dynamic, trying to make it address the contemporary issues. So this is what sociology is. Let me explain in terms of certain examples. Okay, take this question. Is terrorism example of asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare. So, how does this issue enter sociology? It is like this. Nature of state. On nature of state, different people have different opinions, Marx, functionalists, like this. Okay, that is one. And then somebody said something about deviance. Durkheim. Deviance. And Durkheim's concept of deviance is modified to Merton, linking it to crime. So deviance becomes crime. And some scholar may think that why are we discussing crime only in the context of individuals doing it? How about state committing a crime? And state, after all, is something bad, Marxian perspective. And if state is committing crime, how is it committing it? How is it killing its own people or others? What justification? So, crimes of state. Then the issue of human rights, terrorism. Who are these terrorists? What are they trying? Why are they being branded terrorists? Okay, so Marx did not talk about terrorism, nor Durkheim talked about. Merton may not have talked about. But finally, it comes perspectives, modifications, and finally, a man in contemporary society looks at the problem he is facing through the lens of analysis started by some as modified by others. This is what sociology is. Which means this is evolving, dynamic, and finally it has to address the current problem, terrorism. A problem which previous people might not have faced. This is how sociology keeps on adding perspectives, updating, and finally tries to bring the wisdom of the past to have bearing on the way we look at the present. Through the process of abstraction, selection, removing the inessential, finally bringing out the central thing and modifying it to the current perspective, current context, and finally saying, look at like this. This is what sociology is. One more example. An activist in India is influenced by Marxism. He is a Marxist. Marx said about class conflict. To Marx, class only is true and everything else is false. That false consciousness is created by others, by the dominant, so that the dominated miss the real thing, that is class conflict. So this is what Marxist is told. But now, in his society, India, he comes across a caste. And he sees it is the caste that is dominating and not class. Class may be there, but it is essentially caste. And he thinks class is not really right. Class may have an angle, but caste. So he doesn't know what to do between class and caste. This is a very important issue in Indian society, class or caste. So what can sociology do about this? Okay, Marx didn't talk about in a way that is relevant here. Weber didn't talk about. So how does sociology help? Somebody in Latin America, some Marxist in Latin America has same problem when he came across two tribes fighting or three tribes fighting. And he also had a problem of how to handle this. He is trying to work out a solution. What to do about identities versus class. Can identity be taken as a class? And if it cannot be a class, how should it be taken as? So he is trying to apply Marxism, modify. He knows there is some truth in Marxism. After all, the tribe that is dominating is economically powerful also, but economy doesn't explain everything. There is some other dimension coming up. So he struggles. Maybe identity plus class matters. He comes up with the solution. And this enters under so-called neo-Marxism, socio textbook. And an Indian sees the caste here is nothing but ethnic identity here. So caste versus class is an issue which interests neo-Marxists. Though Marx hasn't said anything about caste, nor a Latin American scholar said anything about the caste. So what is sociology? Sociology is about generalizing the problem, generalizing a perspective, so that solutions attempted at one place will be useful at other places. Abstraction, removal of the inessential, and developing a common vocabulary. Ethnicity is common vocabulary, caste is not. Caste is nothing but an ethnic group. Okay, so developing certain common vocabulary, common perspectives, so that people apply them to their societies and try to arrive at solutions that are more appropriate to their particular problems. So this is what sociology is. What are the limitations of this approach? See, this is about accumulation of perspectives. P1 plus P2 plus P3A plus P3B, P1C, like this. And these perspectives are reactions. So, if people don't think afresh, then they miss the story. They may miss the real thing. I believe sociology missed two important things. Environment. Climate disruption became single most threat. What was sociology doing all along? Sociology was always talking about inequalities. man-woman inequalities, caste inequalities, class inequalities, educational inequalities. And it seems mankind's crisis came from an entirely different dimension, that is earth. So, if we don't think afresh, sociology is not a solution. It becomes a directory of prejudices and reactions. We got into a big mess, and sociology had little to say. And also, I believe on the whole, sociology missed the dimension of happiness. What makes a man happy? What makes a society happy? Which sociologist talked about this? Does equality bring happiness? These are the issues. And if sociology is supposed to bring holism, which means an interdependent, interconnected, holistic society, surely we are not at all holistic. There is no doubt about it. We are full of conflict. We are torn in different directions. There is no harmony at all. In my opinion, the most important discipline that is ruling the world is economics. It is economics that is steering, making GDP as its most central goal. And sociology reduced to a position of critiquing this, not really influencing and shaping and modifying it. Governments go by economists' advice, not sociologists' advice. So, economics is taking the world in a particular direction, and sociology is simply critiquing what happens to inequalities, what happens to environment, what is happening to the society, and things like that, but not able to bring a holistic thing. So, of course, any discipline is only a product of a society, and how we got into giving primacy to economics at the expense of so many other things is an issue. But surely we missed holistic, harmonious, which includes all aspects and which also is conducive to human happiness. We missed. Okay. So that is my judgment on sociology. Definitely, you are free to look at it in your own.